We are now joined by Stanford's Clark and Elizabeth Nelson Director of Baseball, David Esker, in his seventh season, as well as sophomore catcher Malcolm Moore and sophomore right-handed pitcher Matt Scott. The Cardinal went 44 and 20 last year, finished first in the Pac-12, and reached the College World Series for the third straight year and 19th time in program history. Coach Esker, if you want to start us off with an opening statement about your team and the fall leading up to 2024.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you. And thanks for putting this on, Tyler. On with me are the two players, and maybe the only two players that I know are going to play. Malcolm Moore's going to catch, and Matt Scott's going to pitch. But that's not true. That's not true. It's obviously a year of a lot of change when you lose 9 juniors, I think it was, to the MLB draft. And, unfortunately, we lost one player to the portal. Big changes on the horizon for us. Now, kind of the one thing that we'll start off with is we're not going to have to necessarily rely on freshmen to go out there and do it for us on the field. We have a lot of players that have been in the program already. Obviously, centered around Malcolm will catch and be kind of the centerpiece of our offense. But around him, we've got some. We're probably going to play our last 3 starting shortstops around the infield, right? So last year, Trevor Haskins would have went into the season as our starting shortstop. He got mono the week right before the season opened. Owen Cobb stepped in and did an unbelievable job for us for 50 plus games. Timo Becerra came in and stepped in there right at the end in the biggest games of the year and played outstanding. Well, we're lucky. Timo Becerra will play third for us to start the season. Trevor Haskins will play shortstop, and Owen Cobb will play second. So we're going to spread 3 shortstops around. It looks right now that first base will be between Jimmy Nadai and Brandon Larson. Larson suffered a little bit of a hamstring pull, so has been down for a little bit. So Jimmy's been able to step in there. Jake Sapin is also a first base option. He was our DH last year and spent a lot of time as our starting DH and had a strong season. His season was cut short. Actually, in the regional, he was hit by a pitch in the face and ended his season and wasn't able to compete in the Super Regional and in the College World Series. Where the biggest change is going to be in the outfield, and that will be up for grabs. And there could be a number of players shuffling in and out of the outfield. Jake Sapin and Jimmy Nadai, 2 of our first base candidates, could play some outfield as well. In center field, it looks as though Ethan Hott is a sophomore, Court McDonald, sophomore, both have chances to play in the outfield, whether it be center field or on the corners. Saborn Campbell, who played a number of games there at the end of the season for us, is back as a junior, and will get an opportunity to play one of the outfield positions as well. So our lineup is going to be obviously very new, with a lot of players seeing their time for the first time. We do have a couple freshmen who will challenge for some opportunity as well. Luke Lavin and Brady Reynolds have some flexibility. Luke is able to play a little corner infield and catch and play in the outfield, and Brady Reynolds is a corner outfielder. So both those guys have performed well. We don't necessarily have to play them early and rely on them early, so they can kind of get a feel for the game and the rhythm of how college baseball works. And then when the opportunity arises, hopefully they'll be ready to compete. The pitching, I really like our arms. I think we have maybe as much arm talent as we've had in recent years. Where they fit in and what roles they'll pitch. I think early on, we've built almost everyone up to be a starter. And I think early on, our tact will be to give them innings, put in positions to succeed. But over the course of those innings, maybe the roles will develop pretty naturally. For instance, if we begin by starting a pitcher and it looks like, hey, his best outings have been the first 2 innings, and he's really dominant for 2, but maybe drops off a little bit. Maybe that guy's going to be better served being maybe a closer and pitch the back half. Obviously, Matt Scott will start off and pitch on Fridays for us. Nick Dugan is a returning arm that has starting experience. He's pitched in the bullpen, and started. I think he did that in 2 games in a regional in one day last year and pitched in both ends of a doubleheader. Some freshman names that you're going to hear: Christian Lim, freshman left-hander out of Nashville; Aiden Keenan, freshman right-hander with an electric arm; Joey Volchko, another electric right arm. I think we probably have as much 94 to 97 mile an hour arms as we've had any time that I've been here. They're young, inexperienced, but talented. Right in the middle, guys who will vie for innings. And again, their role may switch from pitching earlier or later. Cassius Thomas is a right-handed pitcher who's a transfer that we got from Duke University. Again, another power arm is probably as high as 96, 97 coming out of the bullpen. Trevor Moore, Torin O'Haron are 2 arms that are going to give us innings. It's just going to be what roles will they fall into. Ben Reimers, Ryan Spesiak, Jack Swinth are 3 other freshman arms that have performed well and are going to get opportunities. I think we have 14 pitchers on our staff. Nate Fleischle, Gavin Nalu, Jaden Bruno are 3 other names that will get innings. We got 14 pitchers. They're all going to pitch at some point. They're all going to get a chance to show, if they can help us when we get into league and into the most important games. We play a couple four-game weekends to start with. I kind of like doing that early because it forces me to use everybody on our roster in one way or the other and just see what we have, and then we'll pare it down and go to get to 3 starters and a closer, hopefully at some point, and hopefully get a chance to pitch some guys in the 7th and 8th inning. We had that luxury over the last couple of years. Obviously, when you have Quinn Matthews and Drew Dowd and Ryan Bruno and Joey Dixon, some of those names, they make the role playing a lot easier. The main theme is it's going to be pretty new. It's going to take us a minute to grow into our offense, I think. Hopefully we can play defense behind our pitching and allow them to get started and have a pitch with a little confidence and not feel like they have to strike everybody out or kind of shoulder the load of the game themselves. But we're going to get some valuable experience. We're going to have to rely on just those players that have been waiting on the sidelines a little bit, that when they get their opportunity to get out there, to hopefully step in and kind of take the baton from the players before them.
Thank you, Coach Esker. We'll open it up for question. We'll start with Brian Davis. Go ahead.
Yeah. Your thoughts will be, this is going to be the final season for Pac-12 baseball before you guys and Cal
it looks like you might be breaking up a little bit.
Between the, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you might be breaking up a little bit. You're asking about the final season of the Pac-12?
Yeah, about key history about facing Miami and Florida State in postseason, some iconic games, including the College World Series. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a tragedy, right? I think losing our conference, and it's the conference with the most national championships, in college baseball, and probably with the most national champions in one conference in college baseball. I think you can go up and down the line between UCLA, USC have won titles, Arizona State have won titles, Stanford and Cal have won titles, Oregon State has won the title, right? I think you'd be challenged to find a conference with as many national champions as we've had. But we're stepping into a conference that is very strong as well. And it's not a step down for us in a year. It's not going to be a step down in competition. It's going to be different. It's going to be a challenge, but and I think we've been privy a little bit to the schedule of what it could look like in a year. And when you talk about having sunken diamond matchups of Stanford versus Wake Forest, Stanford versus Duke, Stanford versus Georgia Tech playing at sunken diamond, that's a little different than the UCLA, USC, Arizona matchups that you're used to on the weekend. For me, it's about embracing the change. It's nothing it's not worth complaining about or moaning about. It's sad to see the conference entering its last year of existence. But that's going to be that's our reality, and the new normal in a year is going to be very different. It'd be interesting to see how we handle travel, making 5 East Coast trips at some point during the year, but that's just the way it's going to be.
We'll move to shotgun spratling with D1 baseball.
Matt, you had a lot of highs, a lot of lows last season. What's the biggest lesson you learned from that freshman year, and what did you do this offseason to try to attack that?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest thing was really like attacking my consistency. Really focusing on making sure my pitchers are doing the same thing throughout the year. Last year, I hit a little bit of a stint where I was throwing, like my slider wasn't as sharp as it used to be. My fastball wasn't as sharp, and kind of just like figuring out what I need to do on a daily basis between starts, between weekends to kind of dial that in and make sure I'm doing the right stuff. I also dealt with a little bit of fatigue last year, maybe just first time college baseball. It's obviously a lot different than high school baseball. So really just focusing on my body as well, make sure I'm ready for the upcoming season.
Malcolm, what can you do to help Matt this season from behind the dish and in the batter's box as well? But seeing him last season and growing together, you two as a freshman battery, what do you see from him in his growth this season?
Honestly, just having a year of experience catching him, it's been really helpful. Knowing like what his pitches are doing and what he's doing when he's looking good, and like how to let him know when things aren't looking so good so that we can work together. I feel like last year me and Quinn kind of had that relationship because it was Friday nights and I caught all of his bullpens, and catching Matt for 2 years now, almost, it's been a relationship that we've kept building on, and kind of just knowing each other and knowing what works and what's working well when you're doing well, and how to help them when they're not doing well.
And since you brought up Quinn, he's such a unique character in himself. What do you learn from him? Because he's not like every other pitcher. What can you learn from him? Someone who is a little bit unique that you can take and teach to some other pitchers and the way you work with them.
I think one thing that Quinn kind of like brought to the program was just being a leader. I think people don't understand how much of a leader he was for us last year. And seeing the way that he carried himself, whether it was before his starts or after the games, kind of just realizing that it was all about the team for him. It wasn't really about himself. I feel like that's a big thing that can be carried on to the younger guys this year, and something that we need in the program for years to come.
Ben Parker, you're up next. Go ahead.
Yeah, a question for Malcolm. Just kind of how much pride do you take in being a catcher that can hit? You kind of follow the footsteps of Cody Huff. That was a power hitter as well as a catcher, but some catchers are much more kind of defensive oriented. But just how much pride do you take in being kind of a catcher who is a threat behind the plate, whether they're holding a bat or not?
Yeah. I mean, I take pride, I think, in being a catcher that can hit, but also being a catcher that when I'm not hitting, I can catch and still support the team and help the team win. Because you're going to go through the season, you're not going to hit 300 the whole season. Like, you're going to go through slumps, you're going to be up, you're going to be down, but kind of still being able to support the team in catching and kind of just putting together good at bats. I feel like that's really something that I take pride in and something that I'm looking forward to doing this year.
And then just kind of quick question for Matt. Just any particular kind of pitches that you've been particularly trying to focus in on that you think maybe weren't as strong last year for you that you feel might be more of a weapon for you this year? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was having a third pitch. I was really fastball slider heavy last year with like the occasional changeup. So my biggest I really attacked that third pitch this offseason. Started throwing a splitter rather than a changeup, just kind of worked better for the way I pitch, I guess. And I've seen some success with it so far, but it's definitely still a work in progress. Just kind of something to have alongside that fastball slider.
Our next question will come from Carson Trail. Go ahead, Carson.
Hello, this question's for Coach Esker. So Stanford lost many of their veteran core to the draft last year, as you well know, and it'll be up to some of the younger players to help fill the gaps. My question to you is, who are some guys perhaps under the radar who you feel are on the verge of a breakout season?
Yeah. God, if I knew that would be very helpful. But you know what? It could be anybody. And we've had quite a history of players who have waited on the sidelines for a year, and then when they got their opportunity, jumped out there and did great. Carter Graham, our first baseman for the last couple of years, right? He didn't play hardly at all as a freshman, but was ready to play when his opportunity came as a sophomore. Alberto Rios, there's no greater example than Alberto Rios, who waited 2 years, and then when he got his chance was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. But up and down, we've had guys that have taken advantage of opportunity, and I think that's what's going to be, about this year. Whoever wrestles those outfield jobs, whether it's Ethan Hawk, Court McDonald, Saborn Campbell, Sapin or Nadi, or any of those guys, it's going to be someone who just embraces and takes advantage of opportunity. We're looking for some stability with our infield, with those three shortstops playing second, short, and third. We're hoping for some first base play. We put a lot of emphasis on the ability of our first baseman to erase mistakes and make the other interior infielders better. So those become real important positions for us. But I think the most part is if we can get our some of those young players and help them develop in the game. And then just if they can play with that competitiveness and freedom that we've been known for, and step into those shoes of the guys before them, hopefully they've taken something from sitting on the sidelines and watching the guys ahead of them.
Thank you, Coach.
Looks like we have two more hands up. We'll go with Eric Sorensen, and then we'll finish with Stanford with Shotgun Spratling. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, Coach Esker, good to see you, man. I think one of the things I've done after like whenever we've done the fall reports on you guys is I've tried to tell Aaron and Kendall that your recruiting classes are always a little underrated. Of course, going 3 straight trips to Omaha kind of gives me a good argument there. You've said that this freshman class of pitchers is going to be one of the best you've had. And one of the guys I really like, and he was listed on your preseason questionnaire as the 3rd starter, the Sunday guy, was Christian Lim. He's not one of these top 400 guys. He wasn't drafted or anything like that. But what makes him special, and what do you see from him starting this year as a freshman?
Well, a little his personality and his baseball persona is beyond his years. Really competitive. Really carries himself well. Obviously, he's going to need some support behind him. He's going to play some defense, but I think he plays pretty fearless. And we've challenged our team. I mean, if we're gonna be able to achieve what we'd like to, we're going to have to play beyond our years of experience and our age some. And he's one of those guys that fits that mold. I think he plays older than being a freshman, and it's looked like that preseason. Of course, we've just been playing our friends and teammates right now, and we're getting ready to play someone on another uniform that doesn't want us to do well. So it's going to change in a hurry.
A follow-up to that, 2 guys I wanted to ask about that did not pitch last year. You mentioned them, I think, in passing. Nathan Fleshley and Tommy O'Rourke. What's the latest on them going into 2024?
Yeah, Nathan is back and will get a definite chance to pitch. And again, it's going to be one of those guys that will get his innings and then will kind of develop his role from the innings that he gets during the preseason games. Tommy O'Rourke, not quite back yet from injury, and so we'll see what that looks like and materializes as time goes on, but won't be out on the mound to start the season.
We'll move to Shotgun Spratling to finish up with Stanford.
Esky, first off, getting 2 transfers. Well, what's going on here? I didn't know that was possible for you guys. The rarity there. But the question I wanted to ask is just whose growth are you most excited about this season? With so many new faces, they're going to be in the lineup and in the rotation or on the mound. Who's 1 or 2 people that you're most excited about their growth from last season?
Well, the 2 guys that are on the Zoom right now, Malcolm Moore and Matt Scott, you just to see where they've been after 365 days, as good as they were a year ago, they're better now, right? And that's that's going to be something that we're going to lean heavily on, and we're going to be counting on 365 days doing good for quite a few players. Again, those interior infielders, the Becerra, Haskins, and Cobb. We're gonna ask that year of experience they had and whatever experiences that they had, that they grow from those for sure. And again, we're still we're hoping for those one or two guys that sat on the sidelines for a year that we've had great success, that all of a sudden those guys come out and embrace. If we get one or two or three guys that have been sideline players that all of a sudden can step out and step into the shoes of the guy before them, that's what we're going to need, right? That's going to be the big part. And then figuring out how to roll our pitching staff at this point, right? And there's no definitive set starting rotation, but there's going to be four guys that will start opening weekend, and then we'll get a better feel whether that's going to be comfortable for them, and who's going to be the closer, who gets the ball with a 1-run lead and 3 outs in the 9th inning to get, right? We'll start with somebody in that role, but then I think we're going to learn a lot from some of the starts and some of the outings of all our pitchers. Some of the velocity that we have. It'd be great if some of those 95 to 97 mile an hour arms that you can trust them with the last 6 outs of the game. One in the 8th and one in the 9th. So that development's going to be a big part of our year, and I'm excited to see where that looks. Like I said, it may take us a minute to get our feet on the ground, but we're excited about bringing this team along, and I'm excited what they put out in front of them, because they don't want any drop off of the standard that the program has had for the last 3 years, and I'm excited to see how they embrace that challenge.
All right. Thank you, Coach Esker, Malcolm, and Matt. Good luck to the Cardinal as it opens the 2024 season with the 3-game series against Cal State Fullerton.